Hi everyone! I have had quite a few people ask me to record my prophecy classes because I have a lot of people who are interested that are not in the immediate area and can join the classes. So I'm going to record these for you in hopes that I give you the information that you are looking for end time prophecy. I've been studying end time prophecy for the past couple years. I really got into it because my mom started getting into it and she was sharing information with me, and the more she shared, the more mind-blowing everything was, and I find it incredibly fascinating. It's like a big puzzle that's just all coming together for me, and so what good is information if you don't share it with others? So I have a home study that I have several people coming to share the information, and like I said, I've had several of you out there across the United States ask me if I would record it for you. So here we go. I'm gonna kind of shift this to show my presentation. So this is going to be the introduction. So this is week 1. So what does end times mean? We are not talking about zombie apocalypse. I want to make sure that everybody understands that right now. And we are certainly not talking about the world blowing up. So I think a lot of people sometimes discredit end time prophecy studies or call it crazy because they don't understand exactly what the term end times mean. So I'm going to read here. History is often divided into ages, which are time periods, each with certain commonalities. One age comes to an end, and a new age where different realities are present begins. The world to come, age to come, or heaven on earth are eschatological phrases reflecting the belief that the current world or current age is flawed or cursed and will be replaced in the near future by a better world or age. According to ancient Hebrew belief, life takes a linear and not a cyclical path. The world began with God and is constantly headed toward God's final goal for creation, which is the world to come. So let me explain it like this. History has been divided into lots of different ages. You had the age of law, which that was Moses' age, when God gave the laws to Moses, and what now we consider the Old Testament. So the age of law was the Old Testament. When Jesus came, died on the cross, and rose again, the new age began, which is the age of grace, or what is sometimes called as the church age. We are currently living in that church age right now. So when we talk about end times, we're not talking, like I said, about the world blowing up. What we're talking about is the current world as we know it ending and moving towards a new age. So what the new age is going to be the age of perfection, where there's going to be a sinless world. God's going to take care of all the sin and demolish it. And so that is what this whole study means. Let me scoot you back over here. Okay, so this news brings peace and not fear. I want to make sure that everybody understands that this is really supposed to be good news. I know it sometimes can be scary to think about, everything that's going on and what the end time prophecies kind of foretell, but it is really supposed to bring peace. Think about the world as it is right now. Do you want to live in a world right now such full of sin, full of murder, crime, lies, deceit, you name it? So it's really supposed to be a good thing moving forward that we are not going to be in this world or the current world as we know it, and we're going to move to a sinless world. So peace, not fear. So this is a little chart of what we're talking about. So we have here the church age. You can see what I was talking about. This is what the age that we're currently in. I believe that we are right on the cusp of right here, the rapture of the church. If you're not familiar with what the rapture of the church is, that is when we are supposed to be caught up in the air with Jesus, so that those who trust and put their faith in him do not have to go through the tribulation and the wrath of the tribulation. So I'm not going to get into this a whole lot right now, but this right here is what Revelation talks about, the seals, trumpets, and bowls of the wrath that God's going to give during the tribulation. The tribulation is a 7-year period of time. Then we have the second coming of Jesus Christ, and then we have the millennium era, and then eternity. Okay, what is the rapture versus the second coming? And I'm sorry if you can't read this. This is my first time trying to do it like this. But the rapture is when Jesus Christ returns to remove the church or believers in Christ from the earth. The rapture is described in 1 Thessalonians and 1 Corinthians. Believers who have died will have their bodies resurrected, and along with believers who are still living will meet the Lord in the air. This will all occur in a moment, in a twinkling of an eye. The second coming is when Jesus returns to defeat the Antichrist, destroy evil, and establish his millennial kingdom. The second coming is described in Revelation 19. So I want to make sure that everybody understands that the word rapture is never actually used in the Bible, but it is the words caught up are. And so the word rapture comes from the Latin meaning raptoro, which means caught up. 1 Thessalonians 4, for the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a loud command, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trumpet call of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first. Let me stop there. I've had the question in my class before, well, it says the dead will rise first, so are the dead, quote unquote, sleeping right now, or are they actually in heaven or in hell? So what he means by the dead in Christ will rise first is your new body. Right now, the spirits, if somebody has passed away, their spirit will immediately go to heaven or immediately go to hell, and then their new bodies here at this time frame will be given to them. So continuing on, after that we who are still alive and are left will be caught up. There's that word caught up. There's where the whole raptoro is coming from. So we will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet them in the Lord in the air. And so we will be with the Lord forever. Therefore, encourage each other with these words. That last sentence is very, very powerful to me. Therefore, encourage each other with these words. We are supposed to study this. If we weren't supposed to know, then it wouldn't be given to us now in these words and in the Bible. Okay, so the rapture versus the second coming continued. So the important differences are: at the rapture, believers meet the Lord in the air. At the second coming, believers return with the Lord to the earth. The second coming occurs after the great and terrible tribulation. The rapture occurs before the tribulation. The rapture is the removal of believers from the earth as an act of deliverance. The second coming includes the removal of unbelievers as an act of judgment, and that act of judgment will be against the world and those who are left. The rapture will be secret and instant. It's supposed to be in the twinkling of an eye. We're not going to know when it happens, and I want to go ahead and stop right here and say, in no way am I date setting or trying to give false information. It specifically says in the Bible that we do not know the day or the hour. So I'm not saying that it's going to happen on any certain date. However, I do believe it's going to happen soon. So the second coming will be visible to all. The second coming of Christ will not occur until after certain other end time events take place. And the rapture is imminent. It could take place at any moment. Okay, what is the tribulation? The tribulation is a future time period when the Lord will accomplish at least two aspects of his plan. First, he will complete his discipline on the nation of Israel, and he will judge the unbelieving, godless inhabitants of the earth. The length of the tribulation is 7 years. This is determined by an understanding of the 70 weeks of Daniel, and you can study more of that in Daniel 9. The Great Tribulation is the last half of the tribulation period, 3.5 years in length. It is distinguished from the tribulation period because the beast, or the Antichrist, will be revealed, and the wrath of God will greatly intensify during this time. Thus, it is important to emphasize that the tribulation and the Great Tribulation are not synonymous terms. So that is different. If you hear people say the tribulation versus the Great Tribulation, that is talking about how the tribulation is the first 3.5 years, the Great Tribulation is the last 3.5 years to total 7 years. It is Christ himself who used the phrase Great Tribulation with reference to the last half of the tribulation. In Matthew 24, Jesus says, "For then there will be a great tribulation, such as has not occurred since the beginning of the world until now, nor ever shall." In this verse, Jesus is referring to the event of Matthew 24:15, which describes the revealing of the abomination of desolation, the man also known as the Antichrist. Also, Jesus in Matthew 24 states, "Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the Son of Man will appear in the sky, and then all of the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of the sky with power and great glory." In this passage, Jesus defines the Great Tribulation as beginning with the revealing of the abomination of desolation. Again, that's the Antichrist, and ending with the Christ's second coming. Okay, so if you've never seen anything, and I don't know if this is actually going to work. Okay, I don't think this is going to work, but oh wait, it might. This will give you an idea of what the rapture is, kind of what we think as Christians what the rapture will look like. Okay, so that's pretty powerful. It is going to be in the blink of an eye. It's going to be very quick. You can see it's talking about the scriptures here that refers to the rapture. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. So why should we study this? I'm going to move this back onto me for a second because I feel very strongly that we should study this, and I want to speak directly. So I've had a lot of friends, Christian friends, non-Christian friends, say, oh, well, we're living in the current age. We don't really need to study this. I believe that the rapture is happening. I believe in the tribulation, but we don't really need, I don't really want to take my time to study it. Well, that's not biblical, actually. It's Jesus speaks that we have to study this. Why would God give us signs if we're not supposed to know them? If God gives us huge signs in the world like he's doing currently, and we turn a blind eye to it, or we get too busy with our day-to-day lives, I'm to blame with that too. We live in the Western world where it's all about us. What am I going to have for lunch, dinner, what am I going to wear today, running the kids to and from, work. It gets very, very busy for us, and we don't typically take the time to look at this kind of information because it is, first of all, a lot of people get very confused by it, but that's what I'm here to do, to help lessen the confusion and to make you guys understand what these scriptures mean and how they correlate to the current day events that are going on. So let me do the research for you, and then, if you don't have the time, I'm happy to do the research for you and then share this information. However, I do want to say, always back me up. If don't take my word for it directly. I pray very hardly that what I'm sharing is true, and I make sure that my sources are legitimate, but do your own research too if you can, to make sure that everything that I'm saying is true. And like I said, I believe everything that I'm saying is true. I'm doing my research, but don't take just my word for it too. You have a responsibility to also do your own research too. So anyways, I say it's very important for us to study this, and here's why. I'm going to pull this back in close. Okay, so the Bible tells us to study this. 1 Thessalonians, for the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a loud command, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trumpet of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first. After that, we who are still alive and are left will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and so we will be with the Lord forever. Therefore, encourage each other with these words. I've already read this to you once, but it's so important to me that I put it again. Again, therefore, encourage each other with these words. We as Christians are supposed to encourage each other that the world is not going to continue with the sin that it is now. This should be encouraging. And the most important thing to me is that Jesus calls us to study this. He actually calls us hypocrites if we don't know. And I'm sorry, I don't know why it's so little, but the verse is Luke 12:56. Make sure you look it up on your own to make sure you know exactly what it says if you cannot read what's on my screen right now, because it is a really little font. I apologize. Jesus explains, "You hypocrites, you know how to interpret the weather signs of the earth and sky, but you don't know how to interpret the present time." That to me is why I'm studying this and why I feel like everybody should know this information. I certainly don't want to be a hypocrite. Okay, so we are to be watchmen as explained in Ezekiel. Ezekiel talks about, I'm going to turn this back to me. Back in Bible days, Old City Jerusalem, a lot of cities, they had city walls around them. And they always had a fear of attack. And so the people inside the city, they would go about their day-to-day lives, but they would have watchmen sitting up on top of the walls that would be watching for enemies attacking or enemies coming close. And so what these watchmen would do is they would blow a trumpet and let the city know if there was a threat. That way, the people in the city didn't have to constantly think about it. They had these watchmen. So Ezekiel specifically talks about how we as Christians and people in the world, we should be watchmen for Jesus' second coming, the tribulation, the rapture. We need to be watching, and we need to alert everybody about the signs that are happening. So read that on your own if you'd like, because I didn't put all of it in here just for time's sake, but it is Ezekiel 33, 1-6. Another reason why we should study this is that the Bible, much of the Bible, is dedicated to the theme of the second coming. There are over 1,500 prophecies of Jesus' second coming recorded in the Bible. For every prophecy of his first coming mentioned in the Old Testament, there are 8 predicting his second coming. So that tells me, as important as it was for Jesus to be born, to die, to raise up from the dead, and to ascend to heaven, for as important as those events were, it is even more important for him to come back